and then going the Jeff route, right? And, you know, granted, that I'm sure that is not always the case because he gets very focused. You can ban that out in virtually every time you see the name, so likely not. But that has been what we've been seeing. And then we saw a lot more of Tap on that duelist role completely and switching it up a bit when Speedery takes the sky on Ultron. So their whole team really can flex across the board. A ton of talent again. And you know, whereas DZ is a little more focused into, you know, their roles. They know exactly what they're going to play, and they consistently play it.
This team is going to stay together, and that's a good point you bring up. Like, it's interesting to see the dynamic. Like, are you going to sub in somebody, or are you going to, you know, stick with the lineup at the moment, going with Tap again, right? And that's going to be the roster moving forward, it looks like. But yeah, there's something about that, you know, consistent style and consistent playing together and figuring out, you know, things through the thick and thin like 100 Thieves have. That kind of, I think, is a good story and a good narrative for everybody to kind of take from, right? Sometimes you don't always have to make a change, especially in the pro scene, right, Shib? Like, we know that most of these guys, if not all of them, are in top of 100 minimum. I mean, they're all practicing daily. Yeah. We all know they're good. It's just a matter of, you know, can you gel with your teammates? Can you also deal with the potential imposter syndrome that comes with being a pro player? You know, are you confident? Because, you know, it's kind of like in baseball, too. Like, sometimes if you have the yips, right? That's a big thing over there. That can definitely mess with you, especially in an esport where everything is mental, right?
100%. I mean, I honestly, that's a great call. And I don't think you and I have had that conversation in a while about the mental game of this game. If you are not confident on any role, you will play like you're not confident. And it's very apparent. Instead of going for more risky plays and trying to get picks and really turning that highlight reel and instead into trying to not get KO'd reel, you will lose the game. You have to be confident in your role, knowing that you can win the match. Because as soon as that goes away from you, just like you're saying, you have the yips, you will struggle to see W's, and that imposter syndrome starts taking over. So we will see what happens here. Going to lock in the Venom on the top side here for Envy, and Ultron going to be kept across the board. Is it going to be a mirror? Are they gonna save Venom now on the opposite side of the ban cap, or are they going to save the cap? Right, that'll be interesting. The thing is, I'm scared now, shit, because if we have mirror matchup in the ban phases, I mean, you got to favor Envy, right? Like, this team, okay, we got at least the difference of Invisible Woman to maybe save that character alongside the backline. On the opposite side, maybe they could ban out the Venom if they want that unmatched. But we've seen Cap also do quite well earlier. We've also seen Star-Lord go through. So right now with the Mantis ban and alongside the Ultron Protects, the only off healer that is not making, or that is not making through, is that Mantis currently. And yeah, they go for that Emma ban. We currently have Jeff still available. We currently still have Ultron available. Same thing with Adam Warlock, Shib. So it's quite a different look than the last series where we saw a lot of focus towards Strats. Absolutely. And yeah, we are going to see a slight difference in comp, at least shown right now. Emma is going to be up here on the side for Kaluj. Again, we had that conversation about TTK and Kaluj on Emma, both of which wild. But what do you hit me with what you're going to say, bud? I'm just like, okay, you know how like last week I feel like we were seeing very targeted bans, or at least like some teams were doing it, and especially last series we saw that. I kind of like envy, or somewhere these teams need to go back doing that again. Like, especially if a team practices a lot of a hero. We were literally doing it last week, guys, and we've like reverted back to this sort of, you know, straight up ban phase, right? Where we're going to play the, okay, we're going to ban Torch, we're going to ban Star-Lord. It's almost like what we were talking about before, Shib. We had this conversation, remember, where it's like there's the meta amongst the meta. Because we're banning so many of the same heroes over and over again, people get practice under certain compositions, and now that we're sort of making people comfortable again, maybe make them uncomfortable. Maybe we hear the Kurova interview where he was talking about how we wanted Adam Warlock and just ban Adam Warlock, right? We've seen that character get so much value today, even though I don't even think anybody's talked about it being like a top tier hero. Yeah, I agree. I think there is a ton of strategy in that. And now Na'Vi, but then Rad, you know, we had that conversation where they said their whole strategy there in Midseason Worlds was just to hard target Speedery. Every possible opportunity on a duelist, remove it. And doing stuff like that can throw a team for a loop, even if it's just one cog in the wheel. And even despite how good Speedery is, it's just enough to mess with the team as we start up here on our first fight. Off-rip portal plays, and Madara is going to be keeping up this pressure on the front line. Yeah, right now pressuring them off with that portal, maybe trying to go for a solid setup play on the height, but currently Envy surrounding them. They also have Munt over to that Rocket Raccoon and DarkZero, maybe expecting that Captain America on that Namor comp, aren't going to get that matchup this time right now. Yeah, ults are beginning. Smash already at 80% here. Velocity at 89. Rymazing going to find Window. Matera onto Kaluj. Month going to bring back Window. Rymazing with another pick here onto Month. Starting up heavy here with the Gamma comp. Rymazing onto Window once more, and they will get point here. 7% on and starting. Envy going to come back with a vengeance, or will they be held here early on? Looks like they're going to try to elect to fight them in their hallway, which is a very good point right now, but can get tricky as Tap is going to be on that Jeff, ready to immediately off map. Great map for Jeff.
And it's interesting they're still trying to play around that. They have, like those mix-up of roles. Usually it's Nero on that hero in the sky now with that Ultron's Rage, forcing out that Soul Bomb from DarkZero, who kind of heavy play together and also get those hook shields.
And out goes the Dance of the Butterfly, the Cutterfly, if you will. Great fighting there by Rymazing. That is genius. Folks, if you don't know when that Dance of the Butterfly is happening, there will be a little circle on the ground exactly where she will spawn in after the ult, and it can lend you to do stuff like that. Well done by Rymazing, who finds a second now. Oh, and that is an insanely smart play there, who then falls and then can walk back up towards the point with the self-res. That was insane. Kurova's now bringing everyone back and is still on map. Oh my, that was disgusting.
I mean, that was almost a good play by Envy, but it's, Kurova. Was that the best Adam Warlock play we've seen in terms of one instance?
That was so genius. That was crazy. And then you almost want to fall there so you can self-res right back on. That was insane.
Yeah, I mean, Kurova is good at that hero. Makes you wonder why we're giving him it every single series we played against him.
Yeah, I'm finding that. I personally am curious why there's so much. Everybody's allowing Warlock through. Tap, Nero, gotta find 2. Window on a Smash now. Window making it a 3rd. 4th, the Speedery takes out Velocity. Make it 5. Why don't you? Impunity gonna hold on here with Hulk for a while. 90% on is exactly what DarkZero were looking for there, as they're gonna just stall and wait for Impunity to fall off map.
And then take him out at the very end. And I mean, you can hold on here, shit. This is what we talk about how important it is to hold on point first, but with Rymazing having that start, you would assume he's kind of warmed up, ready to go. Speedery as well. I'm curious how he uses his ult, because last time he was countered, similar to a Jeff, right? We don't, like you said, you can time that out. It's a little bit harder with Psylocke because you can dash away afterwards. Jeff has, I think, a longer window, but both still are definitely KOable in that situation. And now NB sit with ults on their defensive push. DarkZero, same thing, but they have to walk in.
And the fight starts once more. Dance of the Butterfly out there for Speedery. Month holding on to alt tap as well. Kaluj very close. And Nero. Rymazing is lights out with these whales, though. An absolute demon of the seas. And that's going to be another oop tap. Very close on that pick. Takes to the skies just to bide some time. Going right back into the back line. Smash out with that Rage of Ultron. Impunity going to find Kaluj early. And that could be the numbers advantage they need. But no, Kaluj comes right back from the BRB of Rocket with a Month. And still both teams are duking it out back and forth. Great maneuver there by Window with the tendril timing perfectly with the ultimate to get that pick. Kaluj gonna find Impunity. Kurova gonna self-res. Does have that ult though, and we see the impact, and there it is once more as everyone that falls is now back in the fight. Rymazing playing so well on that Namor. It has been insane to witness. No ults available here across the board. The closest to it being Smash, and Rymazing onto DarkZero gives them the advantage that they do have point.
Yeah, but they lost somebody. This is what I was gonna say. We need to see something out of Speedery, and he finds the pick on a Kurova again in the middle of that fight. So he's not gonna be here, still touching the point. But Nero, maybe the job has already been done, right? Speedery finding the pick onto Kurova is huge. He's gonna have to keep that up if they want to keep moving forward, because DarkZero have the point.
Nero going to commit Rage here. Definitely worth it in the moment to find a 2-piece and try to clean up a few. And that will be maybe a little bit of an overcommit, as also the Psionic Seduction is out, but there is 3 ults available here for Envy, where there will only be 2, actually soon to be 3, as Matera should be there as well with the Meteor M, and Impunity going to be walking forward. But it's all about getting to the point now. 90% roughly. They've got 10 to get there, and looks like that will happen. But the battle begins shortly, the final battle of this first point. And I'll tell you what, these teams are hungry, and we've seen some crazy plays so far.
Yeah, and they're playing that traditional 2-2-2 style. The Hulk gets grabbed, kicked around the corner. They also had, by the way, to mention it, they had overtime spawns from that last fight, so that's why they're here very close at the very end. Rymazing's going to have to go off too in this fight. A huge eyeball going from Window.
And the presence keeps going. Out goes the whale from Rymazing. And that is another consecutive dunk there by Rymazing, who holds on. The team is falling. Kurova onto Window. Speedery gets a pick out of Velocity, but that will be not enough. The OT is ticking down now. Can they get back to this point, or will the first point go to DZ? It does.
Yeah, maybe it had to be Kaluj there for the portal. But still, regardless, what a fight at the very end for DarkZero. It was back and forth on Stellar Spaceport. Now we'll see on Imperial Institute of Science. But it was around that clutch up from DarkZero. It's on these duelist players, right? We've seen Rymazing find one in the middle of these fights until the very end where he had a little bit of backup. They come through. And Rymazing's capitalizing with this whale, right? It's not the setup play at all. We're seeing the Hulk do the grab in the ult right onto somebody, stun CC them. We're seeing the Aya Bagamoto come through sometimes CC. You know, we're seeing some sort of CC happen first, whether it be Speedery CCing himself on Psylocke, right? Like, there's these situations where Rymazing's not even, like, actively throwing it out there too early. He's just waiting for the perfect moment, and it's worked out for him every time. Now going into this one, Shib, we do have that Ultron's Rage, which has been huge every time Nero's popped at the very least. For Smash, it's been a little bit more quiet. He's played a little bit more of the defensive style Ultron this time around. We'll see if we can do something here. We're in a more open map now where I would favor the Phoenix in that matchup.
Got it.
Yeah, a little more off-traditional strategies here being run by both teams. Again, the switch there from Tap to play more aggro on the Phoenix has seemingly worked for them as the fight started turning in their favor after that change, getting off the Jeff that was being countered. And Jeff is countered by a few things here, including things like Smash, Madara, and Rymazing with that whale. There's a lot of solutions, so good shift as a team. Now Nero is going to be on that Ultron again. A lot of the folks on this team are really able to play that Ultron to a very high level, so can be rotated through if need be, but Nero is going to be ready with that Rage of Ultron to match Smash, and it starts now towards the back line. There goes that bond from Kurova, a huge cooldown that's going to keep everyone healthy through that ult, just like Loki Crystals, a cooldown that is in and of itself is essentially an ultimate, playing very strong, as Smash is just going to use that to counter ult and keep the team up. Now goes the Psionic. Window falls instantly after a great freeze there from Velocity. Rymazing onto Speedery. And DarkZero are on one right now, playing like an absolute cohesive unit, lights out, and just really showing up today. Kurova onto Tap with another early pick, and everyone falls, and the point will be DarkZero's.
I love this hard player on Kurova composition. Riot can always save himself with his bubble. Kurova has the heals, but still can get bursted. And it's, as you mentioned, we don't talk about him enough. Velocity's huge freeze, set up that play, shut down Window, who is usually dominant on Venom, but he's now forced to kind of take this space alone, and he's going to rely heavily off of Tap here, right? Speedery's now over to the Ultron, but it's all on him, right? Usually we talk about that in Speedery's case, a lot of the pressure being on him. Now it's on Tap's side, but they have to deal with a whale.
And we'll start again. Ult's going to be slightly in favor of DarkZero here for the moment. And now goes the Feast, but that bond is a cooldown again. That gets so much value and turned immediately around here onto Window. The res comes through, but still, it is huge. Madara tried to get the pick there out of the sky. Unfortunately, did not. Speedery now right onto Imperial in the back line. Good play. Tap onto Kurova. Trying to get this point back quickly. Do not want to allow too much time as Kaluj takes out Madara. Kurova going to res back and bring back everyone once again as the fight starts all over again and restarts once more. We go as everybody pressing the Q button now. Smash coming through. Rymazing holding on to that whale. Kurova gonna find Speedery, and they turn this fight back in their favor. Rymazing with a big whale. Will this be the fourth in a row? It does not land this time. Kaluj onto Smash, and that will put Envy back up in numbers again with a great shift in movement, finding a good angle to come back in and retake the fight, not overcommitting, and just essentially slowing up the pace. But again, they never had the point this whole time.
Yep, they're still in control of it. The Hulk's going to kind of stall it out like we saw in the previous round. And we also have a portal play to come back through. We've seen it time and time again, Chip. Teams don't want to take the L here. Bruce gets out of his Hulk form. And with that, I mean, eventually, DarkZero actually just playing this portal super well, too. Not giving up that space necessarily just yet. Still stalling it out to 90%. But a huge fight there. At least switching to Rocket Raccoon, right? The Rocket plays for a month, keeping everybody back in it, has brought Envy into these fights over and over again, especially when they get picked on Windows side, which, to be honest, I think he should probably switch to like maybe a cap at this point or something on his side. But regardless, DarkZero sent back to spawn now. They only have 90% of the board and not a lot of ults coming up, but Chip, these fights can be terrifying versus the squad on Neighbor.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And we saw there at the end of that fight a four-piece there from Kaluj. There's not much more terrifying than Emma with 100 charge. But what is more terrifying is Kaluj on Emma with 100 charge, finding that four-piece through Portal to drive them back. But again, 90% here for DarkZero. and that would be the whole domination if they can clutch up now. Tap holding on alt window, going to use that feast, but again, the bond comes out. It is consistently ready as Kalush finds Matara in that moment, and that could be a good start here for Envy. And there goes that res from Korova. You don't need to get a whole team as long as you bring back one and start the fight and commit together. Speedery now going to be walking with a Rage of Ultron. Smash does the same. Tap finds Velocity in the back line. Smash is going to find Nero. Korova self-res is back, and Nero's back in for the res as Amazing finds Tap now with another trade. Speedery onto Smash, and they are so back and forth. It's all about playing slow here now together. DarkZero in a tough spot on this high side angle, while the rest of Envy are still playing around that natural cover.
Yeah, Smash had a real good opportunity to try to clutch up there, and it was tough versus 3 healers, right? I mean, there's so much pocketing going on. That rocket, huge boost up in the sky for Month to Live. And now Envy's made it close. We're already 80% on the board. They've also committed ults in that last fight, Shib, and we have our own ults as well. And we saw what Kalush did in that previous fight with the Sonic Seduction. It was huge last time.
And we will begin. Envy again going to be up in ults in this next fight. Month, Nero, and Kalush. Double strat line ults is huge at the moment, but it's very difficult to use the strategist ult. When the whale comes in, it just takes you out immediately. Will Amazing be able to land that? We'll find out as it is launched now. Does land on Month, but does not get that big. Great reaction time there by Month to find that Sia, but it does get bursted instantaneously. Kalush finds impunity now, and again, Envy up in numbers. Here goes the Meteor Ram. Ton of damage out, 56 HP. Falls there. Matara, excuse me, does go down to Kalush once more with a big laser play. That does not get eaten by the Meteor Ram, any sort of laser, including Ultron in the sky. Tap for the 2-piece. That is huge out of Korova and Velocity. Korova has that res, but he does not have self-res, and they're going to hold on as Envy ties this up and heads to map 3.
Yeah, that was interesting, Shib. I think that there's a few things to note from Team Envy on that map. Like, I think, first of all, going into it, we talked about it. I think that comp is a little bit favored versus that Namor stuff. Probably we've seen the Namor do well, but, I mean, Kalush was popping off. Tap eventually got online, right? That's kind of what happens when you're against the Phoenix in that case. That's why you're seeing Amazing now swap over to Phoenix for this next round, although, to be honest, the other comp maybe could do better here. The biggest thing is that Korova was slowing down, right? We saw those pickoffs early, and then once they stopped coming, it was like, okay, now it's kind of over, right? Because the way they were coming into these fights for DarkZero was those picks out of him on Adam Warlock, which I guess now that we're learning, it's not very consistent, or at least not consistent enough to win that round. And now we head to the third one, which is Warrior Falls against Envy, who are switching it up too, Shib. They're going over to the group composition, going off of the Venom.
Yeah, group playing a little more front to back and just going to try to wall off LOS or line of sight and then focus whatever target may be up in front there. Alt advantage going to be coming in here just very slightly. No, yeah, it does go right back actually instead. And that was definitely a conversation they were having, trying to decide in the moment what to do. Alts are going to be roughly even here. 3 on either side. 4 actually, excuse me, for Envy will be slightly up. And can they use that to their advantage? We'll find out shortly as Rage of Ultron comes out quickly. Speedery immediately going to match that right back. Look at the team and use it defensively. Smart play there just to essentially counter. And at this point, you're still up in alt and you've traded. Not the end of the world. Trying to take the space here on point. They are owning point priority, which is good. And off in the off angle comes Tap. Again, the switch here from Tap has clearly been impactful on the Phoenix. Diving right towards the back line once more. Not able to break that as Tap takes out Korova there. The double impact. You can deal more damage if you actually land the bird on an enemy and then have the pop AoE go through after the fact. Korova is ready with that team res. Self-res comes through, and that is now on cooldown. Point not being captured by anyone at the moment as 2 are holding on from DarkZero. Speedery going to find Amazing, though, as Korova brings back the team.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't try that a little bit more aggressive. We usually see like teams like 100 Thieves when they play the Adam comp really hard engage. There's a little bit of a slower engage there from DarkZero's side, but they are back into it. They also picked off Month, most importantly, who has that invisible boundary. Not going to be in this fight, and also the stall coming out from their Venom too.
Yeah, they essentially played the super aggro after the res came out. It was essentially, hold the point and fall for me real quick if you can, and that is exactly how they did it, and that's why the point still hasn't changed. DarkZero, though, Amazing with a 2-piece now on a collusion window, and that is a huge double right there onto the front line. And yeah, everybody's going to have to drop back now as DarkZero gets point early. 5% on and counting. Alt advantage up here for Month. Kalush will be there shortly. Same with Tap. If you look in the opposition on DarkZero, 92% here from Velocity. Should be the first to it there for DarkZero. Amazing close as well. That combination with the damage boost can be detrimental to the backline or even front line of Envy. Let's see how it pans out. 21% on.
Yeah, Rise flexibility this patch has been huge. He's kind of like the Melio if you're an EMEA watcher of North America. Now they come back in, met by that dance floor inside that invisible boundary. Velocities, they want to sort of play it aggressive with that Endsong Inferno.
Yeah, there was that combination. Neither finding too much value, but it does drive them away from the boundary. Korova going to get a pick, though, on a Kaluj. Is a big win there for DarkZero at 40%. But Speedery going to match that right back onto the strategist of Velocity. A very mainline healing there with Luna. Ooh, Month with a nice push. Force physics there onto Korova. Potentially off map in that moment. Beautiful play there, as there is no escape unless you have that ult like we witnessed last time. But now still maintaining his presence on point. 55% and counting. Smash with some insane movement. And again, another one of those players on the sticks, on controller. For those who are maybe making the switch from console to PC, can absolutely use a controller to find success even at this level of play.
Yeah, I mean, he's put in work versus Tap right now. Bought time for Rye to come back. Tap has to run, but in the meanwhile, Tap is buying space for Window to find a pick on a Madara, and then on the Velocities with Speedery, the res back in, but guess who still has the point? It's DarkZero.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing a great job playing around this. Just an absolutely insane stall tech here. Impunity going to be ready with a feast, but Envy, a ton of ults available here. Meteor M as Nero now is starting the dance floor. Monk going to be ready with Invisible Boundary soon too, as it is ready now. Damage boost goes out with the combination, not able to make it work there with the feast. They're still not able to get this point, but they've got to be touching here as it heads towards 97%, and they are. Amazing playing deep here, just going to deal as much damage as possible, try to get that ult back. Out goes the immediate rage of Ultron. Window turning that right into Velocity in the back line, and it is sometimes worth eating that damage from someone else and looking at an unsuspecting target. Great play there to find the back line once more. Velocity from DarkZero, and they will clean up now as Tap gets Impunity, Speedery on a Madara, and they will take the point. But at this point, 99. Oh, and as I say that, I might have spoke too soon. Month gonna find Smash. No, Envy do take point here, excuse me, as they are owning now with a slight ult advantage.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about for Envy. Window's kind of the X factor for this squad, and that's Collusion in the bottom right, by the way, if you're wondering, as Window's a little bit more pale than that man. Meanwhile, DarkZero, though, like they do have 99 on the board, but we've seen them in a similar situation where it kind of went away, right? And we talk about for them, I think Impunity not talked about enough in this game in general. This man really is a standout player, but can he do it again for them right on the Venom when Envy is playing so, evasive currently?
Yeah, and we will begin with the next fight. Impunity going to immediately get on that back line and make it difficult for Speedery, which is a tough angle to be playing at. Good damage there for Speedery, who is ready with that Rage of Ultron. When need be, you can hear the communication. You can see the communication being discussed of when to make that happen, and it might happen soon here. Nero has all Kaluj going to initiate now, and that should be followed up with the Rage from Smash to counter, but already to go down 55%, and Envy doing exactly what they need to, taking this point, playing calm and trying to make big plays. Korova with a big res, though. Impunity right back in the fight. Korova been doing a great job of getting a ton of those reses. Tap now onto Madara. Madara comes right back, though, instantly, as now Speedery goes into that back line. Does fall to Madara, and Smash with some strong damage. Kaluj onto Korova, as that self-res is now gone and will not be able to come through. 75% on, as Velocity brings out the dance floor. Window and Tap with the combination coming in shortly. Will they get a pick? They do. Again onto Velocity with some good focus. Madara on a Nero, and Tap with another trade on a Madara and Smash. And wow, these fights are back and forth.
How did they do that? They literally lost both their healers. They lost Month early. They should have lost that fight, Shib. I don't know how they won besides sheer mechanical skill. This is this classic Envy, right? They should not have won that fight. But Tap, Speedery, Kaluj, Window, they all popped off despite losing their healers.
Yeah, and this is just who can stay the most calm under pressure moment right now. DarkZero in a very tough spot, losing Impunity right at the end there. Alt advantage. Kaluj with that Psionic is making big plays. Speedery with a two-piece now on the strange portal coming through, and that is going to be a massive retake here for Envy, who will slowly be ticking down the timer and take home map 1.
I mean, when things are this close, when everybody is at such a high level, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, Shib, our conversation about, like what you just mentioned at the very end, being ready for that moment. Right, Amazing even opened up in an interview recently that, this team is still working on their weaknesses, right? Still kind of coming into their own as a top level team. And right there, 50-4 for Tap. Holy smokes. What a performance right there from the duelists out of DarkZero, because, out of Envy. They should not have won that last fight, Shib. That cannot be under. Look at those final hits. 16, 10, 15, wow. 21. Now, that's because they're against that Warlock and they're playing against the zombie comp. Obviously, as our boy Cozy calls it. It's definitely true. Like, they came back to the point. You still think DarkZero has an edge, though, right? They have the later Luna Snow ult. They have, on top of that, even more ults after that. they also don't have Sonic Seduction on the opposite side because they used it at the very beginning. Like, Envy just clutched up, man.
Yeah, again, I think the major change, like you said, down strategist in that moment, the combination there from tap and then immediately followed up with that Meteor M combo does take on. This is a crazy play. Again, I'd love to see eyes on that as that ended up working out so well. Although it looks like a win for Jeff, ended up being a win for the side of DarkZero in that fight. But yeah, I mean, again, that combination Ensong Inferno with Meteor M is the Magneteor M, if you will. It was just so clutch. It found the back line. It found velocity there. And then at that point, you're down your main line heals, and they were able to come back. Month was able to get there, get the team healthy again, and at that point they were doomed. Unfortunate though, DarkZero, they had the momentum, they had the ult advantage, they just could not clutch it up.
You know what, it just feels like classic Envy, right? Like at the moment we're talking about how DarkZero is a team that kind of needs to, or has been working on their team play and sort of getting together. But at the moment, like this squad, Envy, it's kind of never, I mean, they've never really leveled up as like a team, I guess, like in terms of like overall team play. Now, that's not to say they're not mechanically skilled, because guess what they are? Like this Envy team has the most talent in the game. I don't think that's unfair to say. They are, you know, theoretically the best team, mechanically speaking, but you know, can they put it together when it matters most? Tap did in that case, 50 and 4, a lot of damage too, nearly 40k, deserved MVP for sure.
Yeah, I mean, dropping a 50 bomb after starting on Jeff and not being able to get a ton of success goes to show you how strong Tap is. You know, we saw that in against Techie when he was on the team Techie, and you know, had a ton of success when Punisher was more meta, getting a ton of KOs there, and then making the translation over here to a Phoenix meta. I mean, 50 bomb here on Domination off the rip like that, taking that 21 finals. Again, just well-deserved, lights out play, bouncing back from that Jeff play.
He was so good, man. I mean, Tap has been that player that you can see why he's in the roster all the time. You know, Cal is also a really good player and a fantastic hit scan too, but it's about that flexibility that is going to bring you into the lineup, Shib. And speaking about flexibility, we're going to be flexing on to a map number 2 after this short break.
And we are back. Envy doing what Envy does. And I believe both you and I had them predicted, but DarkZero looking lights out there as the underdogs, really showing up in those fights. Unfortunately, not able to make it happen in a fight that I do believe was actually favored towards them, especially there on map 3. But what a battle. Envy is crazy, though.
Oh, yeah. Envy's looking good. And, you know, the sort of tangent I was going on before we went to break was, yeah, this Envy team is the best mechanically skilled squad in the entire region. The only problem is, yeah, can they really put it together when it matters most in these tournaments and finally sort of play together as a cohesive unit?
Yeah, and I think we're going to get a glance here. Something that I asked production to check out once more was that off-map res there by Adam Warlock of Korova. It was super awesome to see, and I'm sure some people may be confused of what happened, so let's break it down here. Jeff is going to find Warlock and throw him off-map. In that exact moment, Korova presses Q right here to float in the sky, forces him to turn around, and the only solution to try to stop it is to KO him. But what happens when Warlock gets KO'd? He gets free flight. He is now able to fly onto the map, res himself, walk towards the team, and then res them all, and they will spawn on territory, making sure they don't off map, so everyone comes back that falls from that fight after the res, thus canceling the Jeff ult and still making their way back to point. That was a crazy series of events and really cool to witness.
Yeah, excellent job by our production and you to cover that, man. What a play that was by Korova. And, well, I mean, can they rely on stuff like that consistently? Maybe not, right? It's super hard to pull that play off. Like, I don't know how many people can do that besides Korova. But do they do it again, right? Can they do those plays on Adam Warlock once more? Because we know Envy's probably going to let it through, right? And this is sort of a discussion about Envy's draft phase. Like, just because you win a map, Shib, doesn't mean you necessarily still did good in that draft, in that ban phase, right?
Absolutely. I think we've talked with other teams about downloading the team, right? We saw their Envy made a crucial switch, and they put Tap on Phoenix, and that was it. The story was over. Tap started going lights out and finding so much value there on the Phoenix. And if you're a team that's able to make those switches and find success, that is a team that is going to succeed in Stage 2 or in Ignite as a whole as we head over to Map 2. Envy up 1 to DarkZero. And we will start again, this time map being selected by DarkZero. Let's see what the bans look like.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at it, right? And we're only this harsh on teams, I think, in terms of the ban and the draft phase. Because, yeah, I mean, the margins for error are so small, right? In any instance of an advantage that you can gain, you're going to try to, you have to take it, right? Like we saw out of 100 Thieves bans earlier. I mean, they pretty much had a flawless ban system. That's how they also qualified in Stage 1, Shib. Like, if you remember, versus Sentinels, yeah, they lost, right, in that grand final matchup, but they still had a really good ban phase, as did Sentinels back then. So any tiny advantage you can get, you're going to take it, especially at this level of play in Marvel Rivals. As we get it looks like it's just going to repeat of the last ban phase we had.
Yeah, it's looking so far, but we'll see if that changes up. Double Ultron lock is no surprise there as we're heading to Central Park. This is definitely a fun one to watch, man. I do think this is a strange portal-heavy location, and we might see that happen, as I do believe in the past Envy has made that ban happen, or at least maybe against them, if I remember correct. Off the top of my head, it is difficult. But, yeah, goodbye to Star-Lord, too, which I think is also incredibly strong right now across the board.
Yeah. No, Star-Lord is good, but we also, in the other series, saw, like, you're fine probably leaving it unbanned sometimes. Now, it is all dependent on the player you're against, I guess. Like, in the 100 Thieves series versus FlyQuest, they, had the idea, eventually of, okay, we don't even need to ban out the Star-Lord if the Jeff is not in the game, if the Mantis is not in the game, if the Ultron is potentially banned, right? And, when those characters are removed, you don't have to ban the Star-Lord necessarily. Also, it depends on the player you're playing against, right? The original point that I was making, right? Speedily is also really good at the hero, and the same thing for DarkZero. They can play that level 2 or that Star-Lord 2 high level 2. But to be honest, I'd be okay giving DarkZero maybe that Star-Lord sometimes. Smash has popped off on that hero a lot, but at least you're forcing some role swaps coming through out of them. I would be okay maybe making that adjustment and learning and maybe adapting later on. And speaking about learning and adapting, we ban out that Phoenix and then keep that Emma Frost. This time for DarkZero, they're trying to make last-minute adjustments to the comp.
Yeah, far more duelists being focused here. We talked about maybe more targeted bans, but now you have to deal with some incredible duelists together when it comes to Tap and Speedery. It's very difficult to ban out two, but still very strong duelists being banned out.
Well, there's the Adam Warlock ban. Shib. Look at that. Look at that one. There we go. They've adjusted. Envy have added a wrinkle. I thought both teams here, Shib, were just going to try to mirror each other. They didn't. My goodness, we have a new ban phase.
Yeah, I think this is shaking things up. Again, we talk all the time. I mean, if a team loses and they feel like they maybe can't figure it out, why not try something different and try to see what you can do as a unit? And again, they are doing just that, a change up of the ban phase now as we head in to Central Park.
Yeah, I need to see how DarkZero does without the Atom, right? It's been a while because it seems like they keep giving Korova Adam Warlock in these series, and it just never works out for the team they're playing against. But this time they remove it, which makes sense just in terms of practice, right? This will, like we mentioned, even if heroes are strong and the amount of work you put on a hero does add up, right? How much, and it's tough to even figure that sort of stuff out because, you know, teams don't have that information on each other really, like besides what they've seen from officials, unless they obviously scrim against them. But that could have been for a while. That could have had a completely different ban phase in practice, and it's so hard to predict, I think, what your opponents are going to do. It's just all about the read you can make in the moment. And at the moment, Envy's read is to not let them play Adam Warlock and let them play that Ultron and maybe even some other heroes against that Namor yet again is DarkZero.
And we will start up now again with these early fights on the high side. Window going to be placing the Venom. It's essentially just like a watchtower up here. Going to engage heavy, but going right into a Gamma Squid, and that is a team up they found success with so far. Tap goes down, but comes right back from the res. Has no numbers, and as I say that, one number now in the favor of DarkZero early on in this fight as Window goes down after Tap. No res available there. Speeder going to be on that Psylocke, and we talked about how Psylocke taking a little bit of a backseat, but then you see stuff like this, and you say, where's the backseat? Still clearly meta, as Speeder is absolutely disgusting on this hero. He's going to get that pocket there from Ultron and keep the pressure on here to an Ultron who is juking like crazy. Smash doing a good job playing around that cover.
Yeah, Ryan needed some heals there, close to shredded his ults, but they got to keep him alive. Nero gets smashed, and that felt like a fight that was so winnable for DarkZero, and then they just fell apart. Like, Ryan going down there should not happen with the drone. Also now, Speeder rebuilds up that ult so quickly. First ult in the game, Bill. Pressure has now been put onto DarkZero, who has to make a move now, you know, with cooldowns down.
Korova ready here with ult as Velocity engages with the Eternal Bond on point. Nero going to match that right back with Rage of Ultron, trying to keep the team healthy. But when you're in a position like that, it's not always the most value. As Ultron, you'll have to force out cooldowns and not always play retroactively. Out goes the It's Jeff, and this finds one, but immediately, again, gets dunked on here by Rymazing. And this is the exact issue that happened on Domination before the switch, where that Namor whale is a big threat to things like Jeff or even Psylocke, if you read it correctly. Up goes the Meteor M. Does this one land? It goes down, but it does not matter. A try to make a play there. Unfortunately, not able to happen. Nero is going to find one on a Rymazing with another great shot here by Nero, who's playing lights out on the Ultron and getting picks, even being down in numbers. Kaluj on that cap. Not something that's as consistently played by Kaluj. As you see Kaluj in the bottom right corner here for Window once again. Window does have that Eye of Agamotto available, and that could be a big play as well into only one shield from Madara.
I mean, DarkZero, it feels like, are making so many mistakes. Rymazing, though, finally. Oh, he actually canceled the older Speedery. That could be big, but they need to not lose somebody here, Shiv. This keeps happening. They lose somebody in the middle of the fight. I have Agamotto up, too. They have to be aware of this without any ults. DarkZero does.
Yeah, got to play aggro here and take the space while up in numbers, but I mean, Envy just doing such a good job at dropping back and retaking, ensuring they don't lose. And as I say that, Smash going to turn one right back into Nero after that invisible boundary from Korova is going to slow up the pace in the sky, but Window gets a pick. Nero comes right back from the res. Rymazing finds Window to trade that back. Smash now going to be using the Rage and look directly at Kaluj, but out goes that Sia, and Jeff is going under. Well, this land, as the cooldowns have been forced, it's a two-piece. Will he be able to escape? Tap is close. The whale goes out. It stops, but it is not enough as Tap throws Impunity off map there.
This is not like DarkZero, man. Like, they are just getting picked apart at the moment by Team Envy, who is just surrounding, and that's the point of the comp for sure. But to be honest, this Namor stuff should be doing well against the Cap comp. At the moment, lapse of judgment there by Rymazing. Forgot about that, Jeff. Goes in late, and now all of the momentum still in favor of Envy.
Yeah, it would have been a disgusting downtown whale, but unfortunately not able to land the center, which is your best and only bet there into a Jeff who does not have that shield over him. Again, Velocity now taking that space with Eternal Bond. This could be enough for DarkZero to start getting some point charge here. Halfway they go, but again, out goes Speedery with the start of the dance of the Cutterfly, and they follow up with two as Smash and Rymazing go down. 20 seconds on the clock. Will Envy be able to take this win early like this as Kaluj takes out Korova and Madara falls?
And this is how you know that Adam ban was the correct choice and a way better ban phase for Team Envy, despite, you know, winning the last map. Now this looks a little bit more dominant. Now that you get Krov on Invisible Woman instead of that Adam Warlock where he's been so dominant, it's been big for Team Envy.
And we begin again. Impunity going to commit heavy here with the Hulk. Madara goes up with the Meteor M. Unfortunately, not able to make anything happen just yet, as I believe Jeff used the iframe of the dive down to hold on. Tries to get one, but gets immediately deleted. Well done by Madara there on the tap. Still keeping the presence forward window available here with the eye. Whale lands, and it finds Speedery. Maybe post ult again. Didn't have eyes in that moment. Speedery did not commit ult. Excuse me. Still a great whale. Right, amazing finding window. So much value here from the Namor. Window going to be res back up, but Velocity finds Month, and at this point, I do not believe they'll be able to hold DarkZero take point one.
Excellent hold there by Team Envy. I mean, they really played that comp to the highest level. Get picked, sure, but you have BRB from Rocket Raccoon come through the high ground. Speedery is able to find picks as well as Nero. I think he's been the most impactful player this entire time, just constantly with these Ultron's rages in the sky, always unaccounted for, and then they'll get picked off. DarkZero now switching to a regular 2-2-2 style.
Yeah, and we will keep the pressure forward. Speedery trying to find the play here onto Namor, and that is a decent ult, but it will not be able to get too much value as they are stacking very well. Great shield there from the side of Impunity to keep the team healthy from those early attacks from the Dance of the Butterfly. Kaluge going to commit the Freedom Charge. A ton of damage out, and they're focusing heavy on the front line, the back line, with those bubbles once more from Impunity, keeping the team up and not able to make much happen as the map shifts up here and almost catches Kaluge in that moment. Nero gonna find a two-piece, why don't you again? Just so disgusting here on the Ultron. Have seen it in the past. A lot more in stage one as Nero is absolutely just dealing a ton of damage up here in the sky.
Yeah, he's doing so much, and Amazing on Namor has not looked as dominant as he did in the last one, right? When we see him this time around in this 2-2-2 style now, I mean, he's going to rely heavy on those healing numbers that just aren't going to be there like it was in the last one. Now with ultimates, DarkZero could do something, but Envy have constantly dodged ults, and they dodged the whale there.
And ult advantage up here for DarkZero, who will be available with 5 ultimates. A minute on the clock, though. Not a lot of space taken here for point 2. They need to make something happen now as Velocity engages here with the Eternal Bond. Speedery sitting on this backline, essentially just waiting for that bond to end as Karova finds Kaluge early there with a melee, getting some good damage in. You can actually have a little push on the third melee there for Invis, if you didn't know. Amazing. Gonna find Window, and that is, again, a pick here for DarkZero, who are still holding on to 4 of those ults.
As long as they keep the back line alive here, I think DarkZero should have an advantage comp-wise. Now, the problem is Envy have ults. Namor Whale not up for Amazing because he whiffed it in the last fight due to some movement from Window. And now Envy can set up the dive whenever they really want. Also deal with these Namor squids every time. You can see the shots in on it, making sure Ryan never has help.
Impunity gonna pop ult. Madara doing the same. Still now walking forward. Amazing tries to find the Jeff of tap. Not able to make that happen. So holding on to some cooldowns. Impunity now gonna be in a bit of a vulnerable position. Is able to escape there as Nero launches Rage of Ultron. Does get matched by the invisible boundary. Gonna use the rest to juice the team right back up for a retake as Itch Jeff is now launched. Does it get value? Speedery finds Velocity with 1. Window onto Smash with 2. And that is a lot of ults committed. They better win this if you're looking for Envy to take this home. Impunity falls down into Bruce. Tap with 1 is going to find, oh, what a pushback. And does, I believe, get enough space to ensure they hold before point 2.
A great hold for Team Envy, and you know what? Like, this is, if they look good on this comp, I love it moving forward, but there's a few things, like, I don't even fully believe that comp really should work that well, to be honest, versus what DarkZero are doing, and I like it. I mean, they don't have a target that they could really dive on, but realistically, DarkZero earlier was dealing with Vanguard super well, and we're dealing with Collusion Window, but the evasion of Collusion Window was insane. Also, in the sky, Nero on Ultron was popping the hell off, so I mean, a few things. I think the ban phase was good for Envy. The comp, I'm genuinely not sure how that worked, because from everything we hear about behind the scenes, like, I feel like the Namor stuff should do well against Envy's comp, but maybe Envy just played that perfectly. Taking a look at the stats, it makes sense. I mean, nobody really went down except Window, and he can come back on Venom every time.
Yeah, we might see the change up here, trying to play something a little more front to back. Essentially, the idea with the comp that we're seeing from Envy here if it stays this way, would be to pull in with Bucky, wall off with Window, and find that value. Have Collusion maybe tackle whoever gets pulled, and there is no escape from that as Speedery keeps that distance and just reigns on the backline, distracting them. It is a very strong comp, and this team can absolutely make that happen here. As we start up now, will Envy be able to push through point 2 quick enough?
That'll be a question we'll find out. And I wonder if this is the adaptation that Envy sticks with moving forward. Like, that was a solid choice today. Adam Warlock, we talked about it, how good he's been. First time I think we've seen him, like, specifically ban 2Shiv. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that versus teams like 100 Thieves or, you know, later on some other squads. But right now, Envy having tap on the Bucky yet again. Sometimes we see Speedery on it. We heard that in the interview from Collusion today. Sticking with that man on the Bucky in this front-to-back style against DarkZero, who are doing a similar thing, but in the 2-2-2 instead.
Yeah, and right there, you saw the Vanguards holding around that natural cover. We talk about natural cover a lot. They heard that Bucky pull being started from the side of Smash, waited it out, and then engaged once it was launched, and that's very smart play. Speedery almost finding Amazing there, just about 30 HP off, unfortunately for him. Now they're taking this space, though, and Rage of Ultron is already ready and directly finds 2 instantly. Do I see 3 here from Speedery? Yes, we do. Make it 4, why don't you? As Speedery showcasing how strong he is in the sky.
Yeah, Speedery looking really good. Fast Ultron's Rage built up by him. I don't know why Ori used his shift there early on in that fight, right? That didn't make a lot of sense considering he was one shot, but got saved, got bailed out by his Invisible Woman, and then shifts when he's full HP. I don't really get that. To be honest, to me, it looks like DarkZero at the current moment. They're switching up the comp and stuff. Shit, this looks like they had an adrenaline dump earlier, right? In their match versus Sentinels, which makes a ton of sense. It was a 5-mapper, a banger, back and forth. To me, it looks like they've mentally maybe been tired out from that series, right? It would make a lot of sense, especially in a tough series like that was earlier. Envy taking advantage currently.
Yeah, and I do think there is some value in discussing that. Envy shifting up their comp like this really messes with the mental. They're all so committed on this new comp, and it's clearly working for them as they take point very early. Makes it difficult as you have learned how to handle the last comp, and immediately with a combo tap, gonna find 2. Do I see 3? Yes, I do. 4, why don't you? From Tap, who is just popping off here and is looking towards the sky of Amazing now as the whole team is swept, and there is 4 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, they're building that time bank up, and if they were to lose a fight here, because DarkZero do have ults, they at least have so much time. Also, they have the walls here, Shiv. So many things to stall out DarkZero and make it uncomfortable for a newer squad.
And that was a very last-second touch there to get the point in. They do get the space back there. DarkZero very much has ult. Amazing has to commit there. With the Rage of Ultron, it will be 4-4. Speedery going to turn that right back to the back line and try to get value. The team is going to try to play without using ults, and they lose 3 to Speedery. And that is going to do it. What a play there by Speedery. And the decision from DarkZero to try to hold on to those ults was just not the right move in that moment. Unfortunately, really well done by the side of Envy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call any series early, but this series feels over already. Like, that was tough. I mean, we'll see, right? Map 1 was close. Map 2 was not, right? And that was the most one-sided affair I think we've seen in a bit, just because, you know, the advantage comp-wise was still in favor of DarkZero on their attack. They couldn't take advantage of it, and now onto attack, Envy just rolled DarkZero, right? Made them so flat as a team. Just every instance we saw to them, just nothing really came out in an exciting way. I mean, usually it's going to be a duelist with MVP or like the Ultron. In this case, man, it's Velocities with the SVP, and that's how you know it went bad on the opposite side. Not that Velocities is a bad player by any means, but yeah, they just got picked apart, Shiv, and this looks like a team that needs to come back, especially at map 2. They need something to wake them up if they want a chance to get this top 3 at minimum.
Yeah, once again, I mean, Envy is just, they are just that team that can show up like this. And again, it's a tough discussion, like you're saying. Is it a team that is exhausted maybe when you're talking about DarkZero after that crazy matchup, or you know, maybe they're warmed up and Envy's just really on one right now, right? But agreed, there's just so much going on here behind the scenes. There's so much mental to the game. There's so much, you know, compositionally and ban-wise. There's so many aspects of the game that can completely shift how a team plays. And I'll tell you what, Envy is playing lights out, at least here. They were discussing on a map that was not selected by them. You got to remember that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think we had the discussion like last tournament stuff, but I don't think we have it too much. But MVP of that series is going to be Window on the Gruden, on that Venom. He was kind of providing so much space, doing so much damage. But yeah, I mean, this is like the thing, like, right? Like, Envy had a nice little warm-up before. It was a close series for sure, but now coming into it, right, we saw this team had a very, very close match earlier and maybe got burned, right? Because, you know, we mentioned, at least with chess players, the only real evidence we have in terms of, like, you know, caloric intake and caloric, how much calories it takes to, you know, manage that sort of stressful situation with high intensity engaged mental activity, right? When you have a situation like that, you're burning 132 calories an hour, right? That's you know, so much energy you're burning playing these games. And yeah, you are playing a game, a video game at the end of the day. It's not a sport by any means, but it's still a very intensive subject to participate in on a daily basis, like these pro players are, with the heavy communications they're dealing with and with how much goes into Marvel Rivals, the ban phase and everything, man.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great thing to bring up. You know, everyone can say, you know, the joke is that, you know, it's just a game, you keep exhausted, but we have all been there where after a game, you're like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Sigh of relief, just exhausted from a crazy battle. And yeah, it very much does have an impact physically and mentally. And right now, I'll tell you what, and you know, the entire team of Envy is just looking like they are rested and ready for battle, and they are dominating.
Exactly. Sorry to make one more point, but yeah, I mean, it's that you're right on the money. There's no time for excuses right now. If you want to come back in the series, you got to really look in the mirror and dig deep, because it's been a long day, but there's no time for excuses when you're down 2-0 to Team Envy.
That's it, and we will be seeing how this shakes out right after this short break.
I want your soul. Hell unleashed!
Welcome back, everyone. And at the current moment, Envy up 2-0. And man, was that last game one-sided. They looked lights out, especially on attack. Some big plays across the board. Window going to be there with the MVP. Huge Groot ults, right? And then followed up there by things like the Bucky. You know, you saw Speedery popping off there with the Ultron. Just a ton of solutions in win conditions. And that is what Envy is embodying as a team at this current moment.
Yeah, they're looking to close it out, right? I mean, they are upset about what happened earlier. I mean,
yeah.
in that upper bracket, they did lose to 100 Thieves, got sent down here, and have been on a tear, right? So taking on Nemesis, sending them packing, right? Not getting the top 4. Nemesis isn't coming to land because of Team Envy, and they're pissed, right? They're trying to come back to the loser brackets and just sweep everybody. And if they can get a 3-0 here, that's a big statement to FlyQuest, who they're going to have to play if they do beat DarkZero. And on the opposite side, can DarkZero reverse sweep when the odds are now stacked against them?
I'll tell you what, reverse sweep is in the conversation, but it's all about getting one map here, and DarkZero needs to take that first step. They need to get the momentum back in their favor just to have a shot at it right now as we are heading to Yggdrasil path. And I will tell you, this is very much a triple map, which is what Envy is known for. They are discussing on that triple composition. I'm curious if it's going to change up the bans, how it might impact things, but you and I were discussing what do you think might be the best solution for banning on Envy, and it is a difficult conversation, right? Like, you have some ideas, but you really never know, especially because it's so map specific.
Yeah, map. That's a good idea. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is with DarkZero and how they've been banning, it's not been map specific, and they've just been generalizing, right? Maybe there's a lot of reasons why that could be, but I don't think that's the solution, right? You got to be specific about the maps. You got to maybe focus on those like vanguards and stuff. And I understand you want to focus on protections, but we do need to see a little bit more proactiveness when it comes to the ban phase shit, because going for maybe this one last second ban versus something that you're maybe scared of isn't going to cut it. You have to change up the entire strategy maybe at this point.
Yeah, completely shifted up, absolutely. And back to the triple comp, banning out Strange potentially has a play here. It could buy you at least one fight early on in point 1. I do think teams succeed a lot more once they get through that triple, right? If you're able to press through it, those streets phases, you get a lot of space there. It at least gives you some time to try to battle back on defense. But that first point, we've seen a lot of holds. Even we've seen multiple maps where both teams are held until the last millisecond and they're able to come back and take that win. So it's a very defensible position with these comps, and we will find out if Envy can close this 3-0 or if DarkZero starts their run back.
Yeah, you almost want DarkZero to have picked a convoy up second instead of Central Park because of how that went, right? Like, we've seen DarkZero have closed Central Park maps before, right, where they can just like really duke it out with a lot of teams, but in that last fight, yeah, getting stopped in the streets phase can happen, and now that we head to another convoy, that can especially happen first point if you don't have an answer. And, we've seen teams deal with it, right, on this first point shit, but how many teams can deal with these triple comps like FlyQuest or like 100 Thieves? Because both teams kind of just were like, they kind of blew them over instantly in a certain matchup, right?
Yeah, it's all about what is your solution and what are you comfortable with. Every team has a different solution to triple, and I always find it very interesting to see what teams come out as. And we've even seen things like I had mentioned, Speedery was on, we even saw Iron Man for a moment, right? Like some stuff to really shake up things and be unexpected and to find value. And that may be what we see here. I think Iron Man does a good job of just pressuring that back line, although it didn't last long. We've seen Moon Knight, the Punisher, the Storm compositions, the more traditional Bucky comps. Storm is very much prevalent just due to the damage boost, and you have Ultron there. There's so many different solutions, but it is always different, and there always is a team's little take on it. So we will see what happens now, but right now the bans are looking pretty similar.
Shib, I feel like I don't even need to say anything, man. Like, this is brutal. Like, I don't want to see the same ban phase, and we're seeing it again at a DarkZero. I mean, even going these first 3 bans, right? I don't care what this last ban is. It could be something crazy, dude. Like maybe DarkZero, maybe they've realized that what their situation is right now. But you can't mirror Envy right now. We saw map 1. You played the Namor stuff. It worked, sure. You get rid of the Emma Frost, but. Dude, I don't know, man. Like, I don't like this at all, Shib. Like, this is terrible. I don't like the ban phase, man. Like, what do you like? Do you have anything insightful to say about it? Because this is brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been of mind of, and it's tricky as somebody from a third-party perspective. I've always been of mind of if it ain't working, you got to do something different. Try to shake it up. Definition of insanity is just doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And this is an Envy map, and it just doesn't. Oh, they did ban out Strange though, which is going to be helping them. Well, actually, it was on the opposition as Envy banned out Strange, and that's going to stop them from running this comp so successfully. But either way, yeah, I just don't love it. I don't love how it's been drawn out right now.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, you know, like we talked about the excuses earlier. Now that those are out of the way, you know, we can't really give DarkZero slack anymore besides that entire last map, right? If they get smoked here, this is Envy on a tear in this lower bracket, right, dude? Like they've been just destroying everybody on the reverse on this lower bracket side, and that could be terrifying to go against a team that is starting to build momentum after losing a match that I'm sure in their heads they thought they should never lose. As you heard in Vinny's mind, I mean, in that interview we had earlier, dude, like he was saying, like, okay, you got to go beat FlyQuest now, buddy. Good luck, right? Like sitting at the top of his throne talking down to the peasants right now. Envy not happy to be in that position at all.
And we love the competition. We love the back and forth, the discourse, all in good fun, but it makes teams play better, man. I think that's,
yeah.
And I said it straight up to 100 Thieves. I said, I think you guys play better when people doubt you. I think you prove people wrong and do it so well. And I think teams kind of thrive in that zone. And Envy losing that map, they are angry, and you can see it here now. They are playing lights out. That domination was very much back and forth, but domination is always, you know, has that opportunity to be like that. As we see now, the close hold Speedery going to be here on the Magneto, and we saw what Speedery can do on Magneto over these last few maps. It was Grotius waiting here to use that self shield until the diamond form comes out. It's all about a little chess dance here, back and forth, if you will, but that bubble is going to be used there to help Thing, who did have that diamond pulled. 25% HP gets deleted instantly once that thing gets popped.
Well, they're surrounding him again on this backside angle, though. Nero's the one to go down. Same thing with Smash. They've mixed it up going to the Psylocke comp, and that surround worked out and got rid of the flank despite the peel potentially being there from window.
Okay, so yeah, maybe you don't need to change the ban phase up if you've done your homework. That was a great attack on that location down low, ensuring that none of the strategists were able to escape that zone, and taking out Tap early like that, you know, gets rid of the rocket res, and they were able to sweep the entire backline. But here comes that portal through, which will not be an option here for DarkZero, who did have Strange banned out, as Envy had the foresight to ensure that wasn't the case. Kaluj going to be on cap just to try to buy time on point, but does fall there to Velocity, who just goes to town there with the clap cooldown, which is incredibly impactful. As Matara, is going to find Month. Window gets the first pick back here for Envy, but still, and now goes the It's Jeff from Korova. That finds one, gets dunked on, is going to get healed up, and just bide time, force him into a corner and try to make a play here. Yeah, very low in HP.
I mean, bringing him back around, you do get him too, and this comp is already kind of stalling, doing its point. Also, Envy in control of the objective. Smash with the three-piece, though. Holy!
That is a huge ult there from Smash, and excuse me, before it was Nero who made that play. Korova does still have the It's Jeff Velocity as well. Matara to combat DarkZero with ult advantage right now on this fight, and they will be trying to retake here. Again, guaranteeing 3 fights. We're heading into that third fight territory where they will not be able to touch if they lose again. As we start once more, Smash again. That was a huge ult, and DarkZero still up in ults, but now Kaluj ready with a freedom charge to help counter something.
Waiting in the meantime, Speedery finds Korova in the middle of the fight, and this ult is not there in time to save Korova, who has to walk back from spawn window. Meanwhile, trying to connect onto the Venom at the very least, but he's got the Snowflake. Gonna get healed up a lot by the dance floor, but without Korova, is Velocity going down? The answer is yes. So, despite some fights going DarkZero's way, Envy still hold on here, Shib.
Yeah, and that is some very smart and patient play. Again, these ults are going to cycle. You've got to be active with these ults here on attack, and now Envy only committing Kaluj. They're about to have, they do have Month. They're about to have Speedery with ult, Nero again with ult, and you know, that's all about making sure you capitalize when you have the moment, because if you wait too long, you essentially just gave them a full free ult cycle for nothing. Nero going to find Velocity instantly. Speedery onto Amazing now, who makes that switch. Kaluj on a Korova with some strong animation cancel here. Now heading towards Smash, who is just looking to fall at this point. Oh, he's gonna wait. Oh, turns it right back at him with the reflect. That was kind of gross.
Yeah, I mean, that was as gross as DarkZero's playing right now. Like, holy, can we, like, wake up a little bit, boys? We're in the middle of a tournament where you could make even more money. 50 seconds left to go. I need to see some, like, I don't know, healing each other. Like, they just keep going down and falling over like domino ship.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen a ton of Rye-mazing actually on the Warlock there, and Bond is going to be out to reduce that cooldown from Speedery, ensure that doesn't get a ton of value. Great pick there by Smash to follow up, and Speedery not going to be able to escape and only really forces out Bond, and down goes the It's Jeff from Korova and Nero. Who gets more value? Nero not able to make anything happen. Korova potentially with a decent eat. We'll have to see if there was any success. It doesn't look like we've seen it just yet at the moment, but it might have been a displacement. Ultimate window holding on here with this Meteor M. It is available, the Magneteor M, as down goes Month. Impunity gonna find that pick for DarkZero, and they are waking up like you had looked for. But Nero gonna find Rye-mazing, who may not have self-res, does have self-res. It seems like Speedery gonna find Velocity here with that expel of the Dark Magic. Tap on the high side with Rocket Smash gonna be taking out Month, and DarkZero may be able to do this now as Rye-mazing rests back the team.
Yeah, I mean, they're bringing themselves back into it, but Rye goes down, also doesn't have the Cocoon. I mean, they have ult advantage, Shiv. Like, you guys gotta get some eliminations. Is Smash really the only guy in the lobby that has, like, a sense of urgency? Velocity finally takes down Speedery. They have all of the ults in the world, Shiv. This should be the easiest fight to frickin' win.
Yeah, they need to commit heavy now as there is a few picks. Tap gonna fall from Impunity. Now looking at the front line of Kaluge, juking like crazy, but is low enough. Gotta be focusing that. Get him off the point now if you can, but that was tough to track. Kaluge all over the place. The movement there on Cap was gross, but it looks like they will finally get point one, which is exactly what you need in the momentum moving forward, and they didn't even have to overcommit ult, so well played there by DarkZero in that final fight.
Yeah, well played as a stretch, Shib. Man, they are playing terrible. They are playing awful. They got to pick it up right now. I know it's like overly negative, but it makes sense because they're so tired from the match earlier. But Envy also had a game earlier today too, right? They have the excuses in the world as well. Let's get something going now if you're a DarkZero fan, right? They need to build some momentum, peel off these dives, find eliminations. They were before the via Madara. Can they do it again?
Oh, and that's a good pick there by Rye-mazing, and again, quite the unique change-up in composition here. As one goes down, the double Jeff is going to find Phoenix, which would be tough for off-map. Nero going to heal up and keep the team up and moving. Korova commits as well as Velocity. Does Korova have a good eat? I'm not quite sure it got that much value. Again, going to be on the back line here with different positioning, but what movement? That was crazy movement tech there to avoid as Tap finds Velocity. Speedery going to be taking out Korova. Kaluge on a Rye-mazing. Speedery again on the Madara. Impunity falls, and Envy are sweeping the whole team once more with a minute 20 on the clock.
Yeah, minute 20 left to go. DarkZero regroup. At least they'll have those ults again, and they were able to win that last one on first point. And for Team Envy, right, they got to set up window with his ult to Feast the Abyss. Maybe try to get out Rye-mazing's Soul Bond earlier, because that's the only thing going to keep this backline alive besides that bubble coming from Madara. Maybe they could set up something too with Impunity and Smash 2 on the backline.
Window going under is going to find success with the Feast of the Abyss in terms of overhealth, but still not going to be enough for a pick at the moment. DarkZero going to have that res and the Meteor M available. Will that come through?
There was a fight in first point. Yeah, there was a fight in first point, Shiv. What the hell? Robo finds window, and they're getting two. It's just getting dicey out of both squads. Somehow Tap gets Rye in the backside too. Can he find another into that Jeff just underwater? Able to barely live too, but you do have some help from Nero, but Nero goes down as well, so it's getting scrappy, but DarkZero are coming through.
Yeah, and Kaluge just maintaining this position. Impunity going to find Tap, and again, DarkZero now up in numbers, and be going to commit here the free charge. Yeah, that's tough. Just trying to make something happen here in the last 20 seconds, I guess, but DarkZero will come out on top with ult advantage. Speedery should be close here, Month as well. Tap, and can they combat? Smash, Korova, Velocity, Rye-mazing, and Impunity, who will have ults in this next fight. This might be a moment here where DarkZero clutches up with some big ults. Take point two, and the entirety of this map now switches, and maybe some of those mistakes that we saw early on are just washed down the drain, because it doesn't matter what the stats look like or how those plays were in the past, as long as you see those points get taken. Speedery with some insane engage finds Korova with Nero. Rye-mazing bringing back the team. Down goes the end song on a Velocity. Madara and Rye-mazing brings everyone back as Speedery takes out one, and still Tap gonna find Smash heading towards the back line again and resetting, but this is insane.
Yeah, Korova with the ult now, trying to go to the height, maybe find the people trying to touch that cart on the defense, but Bubble saves, I believe, that one member. Somebody gets spit out. Never mind, Korova goes down before he can even have the opportunity. Tap fills it up. Same thing with Kaluge, and the portal not going to be there because of the Doctor Strange stuff that we saw earlier in the ban phase. And we're seeing some stall from Impunity, right? You have the Psylocke here, shit, but we know where this is going, and the answer is back on the defense for DarkZero. They did look a little bit better towards the second phase, and like I said, I don't blame them for playing terrible, but at the moment, that's my only takeaway, is that Team Envy and DarkZero, well, they're just like mopping the floor with them right now.
Yeah, I mean, DarkZero not going to have the Strange Portal back. I'm curious to see what the solution is going to be, if they want to run something more traditional, or if they're still going to run that 3-3 comp and try to just retake quickly with some sort of stall from, you know, Impunity's Venom or something like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the solution or idea is right now. I mean, you know, we've seen a ton of holds here on point one. It can absolutely be done here. DarkZero looking much more aggressive and together there on that final push, but even so, does get held. They do get held, excuse me, before point two. So we are starting up here. Let's see what they decide. It looks like they are going to run a 2 Vanguard, something more traditional here with a triple strategist, just 1 duelist on Smash, and we will see where they hold, likely just on that ramp.
Yeah, more than likely. Let's see how they do it, right? For DarkZero, they need to string a couple fights together. It's like you mentioned, though, we haven't seen too much like Rymazing on the Adam Warlock. It's mainly been Kurova, because, and honestly, how DarkZero has won like maps in this series is off the back of Kurova popping off on that hero. And, you know, he's doing well on Jeff. Like, he's finding picks sometimes, but same thing for Nero. I feel like his impact maybe would be a little bit higher, at least from the KO perspective on the Adam Warlock, because right now Envy are reading his plays well. And it's interesting, Envy, they may start off on that Iron Man that we talked about earlier, Shiv, that you mentioned and you brought up, but nope. Switching off of it, it looks like this time around. Back to their full dive with the Captain America and Venom.
Yeah, and with, you know, when you do have that Psylocke, Cap does a good job of pairing with Psylocke when you get that knock-up. Rymazing, though, with a pick early onto Speedery. Good work there. But again, the point already heading towards that second fight territory that you saw from the side of Envy on defense. That's their goal, is to always fight again there. So the fact that it's already there is already some free space in this early attack. Speedery, looking clean here, is going to be putting Impunity very low, but not enough, and forced to reload in that moment. Rymazing doing, honestly, a pretty great job here on the Warlock for something I haven't seen a ton. His hero pool is also just massive tap, though. As I say that, Caster Kurtz is going to find Rymazing. The rest comes through, though, as Speedery is owning this space on the high side. A very good spot to take there on attack.
Well, Kurova's built up his ult, too. Ensong Inferno comes out at the very least. They break Tap's ult. Both players were building up ults quickly. I thought that maybe they would have read that, try to counter it, but oh no, Nero's the one that gets a bigger read. Smash does fine too, though, in the meanwhile. Because of that, Kurova got Speedery off the map. You don't even get Rai. Nice job.
Not able to push Rai off map in that moment. Unfortunately, gets clipped by the ledge there, and that is a tough look, but it ends up turning around in the favor now of DarkZero on the defense. 2 minutes and 30 is plenty of time, but DarkZero will be, you know, roughly similar in ults, actually closer to an advantage here as this fight progresses. At the moment, window and month available, and then you see a matter of velocity, Smash, and Rymazing ready as Impunity's close as well. Kaluj almost there with the Freedom Charge. A ton of Qs being ready. Who gets more value as we start off our next fight? Out goes the Invisible Boundary. Ton of damage out onto the front line of Impunity. Rymazing with the pick now, too. Again, Rymazing looking clean here on that Warlock.
Yeah, there you go. There's that sense of urgency we were talking about earlier. And maybe for the opposite side, Kaluj, old man Kaluj in that case, getting picked off. Impunity also finding Month, so finding the young gun of Envy's side, and they're slowly doing it, even though Month is down. Kaluj is trying to clutch up still against DarkZero, where Kurova commits that ult in the backside. Rymazing gets down by window, and maybe the Freedom Charge is enough to buy them time. Nero goes down, but they trade back velocity. Ensong Inferno from Tap smokes down the rest of DarkZero.
Yeah, Rymazing does have ult available. Kurova gonna get picked there on the side over towards the right. Madara falls, and that is going to be Impunity and Smash down as well. Envy only having window in Nero. Actually, Speedery as well in this next fight where Rymazing, and we see, yeah, just about Rymazing and Madara, and that's it.
I mean, they've got those two ultimates. They'll have to come back and touch that objective too, and we're getting towards the very end, about 80 meters. Pretty much 20 to go now for Team Envy. And we already that early Soban. Nobody's even near him, though. They're split up, and they lose their back line. Brutal for DarkZero. And Rise now stuck against a rock and a hard place. He has to res. He's going to get tracked, too. Sure, you have that payload. But at the moment, Envy are just picking you apart.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge engage there by Window. Full commitment, great place of that, using those tendrils prior to all. The res comes through from Amazing, though. Impunity is bad. The whole front line is back now, walking back onto point. Nero going to commit that all to Smash. Is the same. Kalu's going to find Impunity, though, and right after that, res will not be able to be resed again. 30 seconds on is a pretty good defense right here. Smash finds Nero, though, and will this happen? Will they be able to maintain this position? Looking forward now to the sea of a tap with that animation melee cancel will be too difficult to take out. Korova not able to get a good eat there. Unfortunately, Speedery finds Korova now very clean. Window, Kaluj with 2-3. Nero onto Amazing, and that will be a hold here, a push through, excuse me, as Envy now is heading towards their victory.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 30. DarkZero's made it close, though. And Chib, honestly, like, we've heard people, like, you know, equate games to, like, ranked, you know, when things are going poorly, like when it's a sloppy game. But this might be the first time I've actually heard that in a reasonable manner, right? Like, this actually feels like a ranked game. Both teams definitely tired, right? After an incredible day of competing. It's been tough for both squads. And with 2 minutes left to go, who can put it together, you know, at the very last moment? It looks like Madara does on Speedery.
Yeah, Kaluj with some heavy engage showing off the cap, which is definitely something that has been in the belt for a bit, but maybe not as selected. Speedery going to find one. Will they see another? He is pressing forward again, but out goes the dance floor, this time from Velocity. Smash, though, going to find Tap, evening those numbers. Window with a two-piece onto the back line is massive as Speedery takes out Velocity and Impunity, and they are walking now 1 minute 50 on, and they are cruising forward with 3 on cart. Folks, remember, 3 on cart is the max speed. It will show 4 arrows on the top because 1 arrow will be there without anyone on cart. Just keep that in mind. Little known fact. Some people, you know, well-known fact, but some people actually do not know that. Speedery going to take this offside angle. Down goes the Itch Chap. It finds 2 enemies. Nero going to spit the allies back and just take 2 of the strategists away, and that is so much value as Nero drops Amazing. Impunity, though, finding Tap. Amazing got a res right back, but at this point is pretty far away from this fight. Will he be able to get back there in time? Does have that res, is going to launch it and try to retake. Kaluj going to find 1. Amazing bringing back Mad as they still walk forward again, and out goes this portal, owning that backside as Speedery now commits in with a minute on the clock.
And the time still on here. Right, you have everybody back. They also just use Soul Bond. You can maybe get an explosion into the backside. Rye goes down. Madara, the sky has to go big. Otherwise, they might lose here.
Yeah, it's still a battle. Kaluj going to find Velocity once more, still owning this space. Tap is going to find another, and again, Envy are winning this through Portal. Kaluj still has that Freedom Charge, and the End Song is available. That's a lot of bodies down. I don't know if DarkZero can get back there to do this. They cannot. Envy takes it home 3-0.
And 3-0 for them. Didn't look as clean as their last win, to be honest. Kind of reminded me of Logan versus Deadpool, right? Towards the end when Logan's like, I don't want to get back into my job, you know? Like, Envy had one more game to go, and they closed it out there.
Yeah, I agreed. I think you're right. Both teams kind of going through it today with some serious battles. And, you know, Envy showing up in that moment, taking 3 maps, really staying confident as they do. And across the board, still looking clean, even through so much playtime today. There is going to be even more tomorrow as they progress forward and look to face Fly. And, you know, DarkZero, we will be saying goodbye to them as a team, but not for long, as they did make it all the way to the LAN. Congrats again to DarkZero, who clutched up in that moment, and that was the goal of these teams. Get to the LAN, see the, you know, show up in person, show everybody what you got, and that's a whole other scene. Teams can play much better in LAN and play under those lights differently, where teams may struggle in that situation. And I'll tell you what, Envy has been there under those lights before, making it all the way to 2nd place in midseason. They are not a team that struggles under the lights, and they are looking for it once more.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. That was the goal, and DarkZero did it. You know, that mission accomplished. We can you know, wipe that game clean from our memory. At least I'm going to do that after that one. But you know what? Like, Team Envy looks good, Shib, at the current moment. And like you mentioned, like, this team, when they're motivated, is the best team, one of the best teams in the world, right? When we've seen Envy at their peak, they can really, you know, fight against anybody. They can beat the best of any team in the world, right? And you know, it's a matter of, is that Emma going to show up again at LAN, right? Can they do it? Can they make the correct preparations going into it? I'm sure today was just a really, really tough day, right? Like a long day for them. And then same thing for DarkZero, just across the board. It was a very, very tough match. But that's what happens when you don't make it to the upper bracket, Chip. That's the benefit. On the opposite side for FlyQuest, well, they have to play 2 matches, right, tomorrow.
Sure.
But regardless,
If they
they
win,
still,
yeah.
if they win, yeah. And then also for the side of 100 Thieves, I mean, they just made it to the upper bracket. They're chilling. They're getting ready to relax until that finals.
Exactly. And, knowing 100 Thieves are looking to try to be underestimated because that's when they shine brightest. Kalush here with that MVP. Honestly, Kalush on cap, like I said, not as much of a frequent sight, but disgusting work here. 38 KOs, 13 finals on the cap, a ton of damage towards that backline, being a nuisance there with the second most finals, as Speeder going to be there with 19, and Windows still had 12. So again, all of them playing great. Tap obviously making the switch to Phoenix there at the end with 9 finals, and you look over to Smash with 14 on the opposition DZ. Like I said, great work there. Unfortunately, I'm sure it was an exhausting day for that team, but we will be seeing them in Worlds.
Oh, yeah. Map 1 was an absolute banger, and then you could tell everybody is getting a little bit sleepy after that one. But it was still an incredibly fun matchup, and it's awesome to see Envy, do as well as they have and to come back in this loser bracket, which I believe we have Nero on the line for the side of Team Envy. We haven't talked to him for a little bit. What's up, Mr. Nero? I can see half your face right now. How you doing, boss?
Hello. How's it going?
Good.
Good, buddy. Congrats again on the victory. I mean, you guys are looking lights out. I can see like a fire lit under you guys after that loss. The question I have for you is you're going up next against Fly. What are the thoughts there? Have you been thinking about that, or is it one match at a time?
Honestly, it's just been one match at a time. We honestly expected Fly to win versus Thieves. I think they kind of choked, but it's going to be exciting that we get another rematch versus them tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you guys are obviously going to get ready for that one in terms of, I think for you guys, getting you onto the Jeff sometimes has been a big thing. But like also today on Ultron, you had an incredible series on Ultron so far. Like, what's that for you flexing over to Ultron off of Jeff and stuff? Like, what goes into that? Because we see Speedery also sometimes play that Ultron and stuff. Like, why? Like, what's going on in your guys' decision making to put you on sometimes Jeff and Ultron? I know the ban phase is a big part of it, but there's the consistency is sort of you guys are flexing more than other teams, I think, right now.
Basically, when I'm on Ultron, it's just we want to go a backline that's basically like unkillable, and then when Speed's on Ultron, it's just like that's when we need 3 supports, and that's it. That's his best support, and it just fits our playstyle. Honestly, it fits his playstyle. It's a flyer. He's like insane at flyers. Yeah, I mean, basically just when I play.
No, I mean that makes a ton of sense. I mean, you guys are so willing and able to flex the different roles, and all of you have experience on a duelist type position, so you all have the mechanical skill to make that work, and you're consistently rotating. So very, very strong there. We see you jump in on Jeff, and you guys make those rotations. You've had some big Jeff ults. The question I have for you about Jeff is, when is the right and wrong time? I feel like some of these games you guys are absolutely rolling on Jeff, and then some games you're forced off just due to the nature of how the composition looks. What does that look like for you guys?
Sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, the short of it is essentially, when are you guys rocking Jeff, and when do you feel like it's not comfortable? Is it just how it's feeling in the moment, or is it a compositional change?
Honestly, Jeff is just OP. I feel like you can play him versus every comp. It's just honestly a skill gap character. Like, there's so much tech to the character where there are counters to Jeff, but it's like there are counters to the counters as well. Like, it's not just black and white, So honestly, you can just play him anywhere, I feel like.
That makes sense. And it's been like a long day for you, Mr. Nero. Like, I know that, you guys had to come back for this lower bracket side, and you guys look like you are on a tear right now. But obviously, like you said, you thought that FlyQuest would have dominated in that series versus Under Thief. That didn't, right? And now you guys are going to play against FlyQuest tomorrow. Just real quick, let's focus on the bit of the narrative side here. You're going to be against FlyQuest again. Like, what do you think about that team? First of all, it seems like there's some bad blood between you guys and maybe 100 Thieves, but it seems like there's some general, this team's all right for FlyQuest, right? What do you think is going to happen tomorrow versus FlyQuest? Why is it going to be different than your guys' game earlier?
I mean, honestly, I think we just played bad on our series before. Like, every time we lose, I feel like we just play horrible. Like, if we just show up on the day and play good, like, we can win versus any team in the game. It really doesn't matter. We just can't make stupid mistakes in the match.
Awesome. No, that makes sense to me. And again, appreciate your time jumping in. I know it can be a hassle for y'all. We really appreciate you jumping in. Do you have anything you want to say before we let you go? Anyone you want to call out? Things like that?
I don't have anyone I want to call out, but I just want to say a shout out to Envy, shout out Astro, shout out Tasmo, shout out my teammates. We've been working hard. I'm glad we qualified for the LAN, and I'm excited to meet new people, meet you guys again. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, congrats again, buddy. We look forward to seeing your match tomorrow as you head over to Fly, and that's going to be a battle. I'm stoked to check that out. Thanks again for your time, buddy.
Good luck, boss.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So you heard it, folks. It's any given day, right? He's essentially, when they feel like they're losing, they're just not on it. And you got to be on it tomorrow. I'll tell you that as we're heading to the very end of these brackets. These teams have grinded to get here.